This video has been inspired by some of the things I've seen said on Twitter lately. The main one being from KDM, who, if you don't know, I say, if you don't know, I don't really know. I know he seems to have a lot of inside scoops, apparently. Haven't got that confirmed, need to do some research. But he always goes on about the fact that he's talking to this director or this person from this film, or he's going on set. And he usually makes ambiguous, mysterious comments about things before they come out. And then we'll usually link back to those comments after the thing has come out, going, hey, look, I told you. But recently on Twitter, he said he was amused by the fact that adults were arguing with children about the redesign of a fictional character, and that he was going to write it up in his column, whatever that means. I ended up replying, saying what's wrong with that, because, you know, appreciating a child's opinion about something is a good thing, because you're not just dismissing it out of hand because they're a child. Also, how you're supposed to know that someone you're arguing with is a child, unless you go specifically looking through their profile, which is a bit weird. In the end, KDM said I was right, but I was missing some context about what he was saying, which means he should have put the context in his... Anyway, the reason KDM's post inspired me to make this video and talk about this subject is because this is not a unique sentiment. There are lots of disparate and conflicting opinions being thrown around, usually by the same people. And I mean, one day someone will say, this is great, this is amazing, I'm really looking forward to this, I'm really invested in what's going on. Then the next day they will say, oh, this is all silly and stupid and doesn't mean anything, why is everybody getting so het up? I've spoken about it before in a previous video. Go watch that, it's great, if I do say so of myself. But this is also leading to straw man arguments, where people are saying stuff, but they're usually saying, but what they are saying is usually vague, probably not what people are saying, just so they can make their point better. Actually, there was one exchange I saw where someone posted, people are complaining about the new Godzilla design looking stupid. Haven't they seen Godzilla films before? Posts link of Godzilla doing the dropkick on Megalon. Then, I think it was actually Zimzilla, replied saying, no, it wasn't Zimzilla, it was someone else. I think Zimzilla reposted it. Someone else replied saying, yes, we have seen that before. That's why we don't want it again. Which is fair enough, but that's a whole subject unto itself, really. I might even add that on the end. But for now, I want to talk about Godzilla's redesign. Specifically, Pink Godzilla. So the first subject I want to cover is the fact that Godzilla has had a redesign at all. My notes literally say, changing design, tradition versus continuity. Now, anyone who's watched my reviews of the Monarch Legacy of Monsters episodes will know that I'm quite a stickler for continuity. In that case, the past storyline, like the past as opposed to just the recent past, the old past storyline is affecting what we understand to be the history of Monarch, which then causes continuity issues and just basically just our understanding of the Monsterverse and why things are the way they are. As I see it, continuity is important to investment in a story, which is why when you see Godzilla in the Monsterverse changing so dramatically, it begs the question, okay, what the hell happened there? Obviously, the film isn't out yet, we haven't seen the story, which is why I'm withholding judgment. For all we know, there's a very good reason why Godzilla has gone through this massive change. But what if there isn't a reason? Now, the arguments against something like that, an argument like that, would be that, you know, Godzilla changes all the time. You know, look at the Showa era, he had suits for different episodes. He had multiple suits for one film. I mean, my -1 monstrous moment video talked about Son of Godzilla. In that film, he had 3 suits. Quite significantly different. He changed the look from one scene to the next. In some cases, in the same scene. But just because that's happened before, doesn't necessarily mean that it's alright to do now. I mean, the Heisei era, this suit was very consistent. There was a bit of a difference between 84 and Biollante, but after that it was very, very similar, to the point that most of the time when you see Godzilla walking around, it's the Heisei era suit that they're using, because it's so distinct and so consistent. I mean, let's not talk about the Millennium era, that was all over the place. The Reiwa era is even worse. So yeah, just because it happened in the past doesn't mean it. Even more so, in the past they had to make the suits. The suits would deteriorate and get damaged and whatnot. So the next time, okay, we need to make a new suit. Let's make a new suit. Oh, it wasn't quite the same as last time. Whatever, we'll just go with it. This time they have CGI models that don't deteriorate. You can literally just copy and paste it. So any design changes that happen have to be very specific design changes. Like Michael Dougherty changed the spines because he wanted them to look more traditional. I think he literally said he looked at the original film's spines and went, I want those. Of course, then when it came up in the film, a comic was released. I haven't read this comic, but apparently in a comic, Godzilla's spines got damaged and then they started growing back, which is why they look different. So there, you've got your continuity. Why do his spines look different from one film to the next? Well, according to this piece of media, it said it happened. But even if that piece of media wasn't there, how many people would have noticed? I didn't notice until someone told me. Most people would look at the MonsterVerse Godzilla and go, yep, that's Godzilla. He looks significantly different to all the other Godzillas that have come before, but people recognise him as Godzilla. So to then introduce this Godzilla, especially in a cinematic universe that people are used to having a continued story nowadays. The Showa era was all over the place, and people still argue as to whether it was a continuous story. Heisei era, contiguous story. And then you got the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has made everybody used to a contiguous story over multiple films, hence the whole cinematic universe thing. And the MonsterVerse was following that along, and arguably was the last good cinematic universe that was still going. So to then make drastic changes like the ones we're seeing now really need a good explanation. But we're going to have to wait until the film comes out to see if they actually have good reasons. The next item on the list, oh dear, ultraviolet spectrum, silly versus science. Now a lot of people I've mentioned it already, when people complain about the MonsterVerse looking silly, about looking stupid, and etc, etc, take your descriptor, people would then bounce back with, Godzilla's been silly before, and then people will say, yeah, we've seen him being silly before, it wasn't good, we don't like it, we want to go back to the serious. And that is a whole discussion unto itself. But it's really, really weird when the people who argue about silliness bring up serious stuff, i.e. bringing up KDM again. In a Twitter post, he posted an image of a light spectrum, and it showed the light blue that is normally the Godzilla we know and love. And then as you get more and more energetic, the colour changes from light blue to dark blue to purple to pink. The argument being that Godzilla turning pink is a good thing because he's become more powerful. It's not necessarily what energetic means, but never mind. So people complained that Godzilla looked silly. People argued, yeah, he looks silly, he's supposed to be silly, that's what he's supposed to be. Oh, but also it's like scientifically like correct as well. So pick a lane. Do you want to be serious? Do you want to be silly? If you're trying to prove, like with facts and logic, that this is meant to be a proper thing, go with that. If your argument is that this is meant to be silly, go with that. You can't have both. Oh, honestly, I think they should stick with the silly argument, because if you start going into the facts and logic serious argument, you start having problems. I.e., on the graphic that was shown, it had the light blue, and then everything above light blue was in ultraviolet. Ultraviolet is invisible to the human eye. So if Godzilla was apparently getting more energetic and his colour was going, and the colour of his spines was representing his energy going up the spectrum, then after light blue it should be white? Maybe white? Invisible, really. His spines shouldn't be giving off light at all. Maybe they should be clear, like glass. Ooh, glass spines. They should have done that. Or white. Go white, like they did with Godzilla versus Gigan short they put on YouTube. They should have done that. That would actually look kind of cool. Now that we've gone past the subject title of this ramble, let's continue. The next point I've got down here is the spikes, and next to it, cool versus over the top. Now unfortunately this is entirely subjective. I, personally, saw the image of Godzilla, the way he looks in the trailer, and said to myself, bloody hell, that looks ridiculous. He looks like a porcupine. Now to some people he might look fine. Having more spikes might look cool. Yeah, just cover him. Just completely cover him. Make him a ball of spikes. Make him look like Actually, on second thoughts. Hell, maybe this is the trick, isn't it? They're slowly turning Godzilla into Anguirus. And then we're going to get Anguirus. And then we're going to get a second Godzilla. Which is actually the rumour I heard somewhere along that the chunky lizard from Godzilla vs. Kong is going to be given more representation in Godzilla X Kong. I don't know why, or... yeah, I've heard that. How they're going to do that, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure why they would bother. Or, yeah. There you go, here's a read for you. Godzilla is going to be slowly but surely morphed into a new age Anguirus, and the big chunky lizard is going to turn into the new Godzilla. There you go. That's my theory. I've gone completely off track. What was I talking about? Spikes, right. Yeah, the spikes, I don't like them. You might like them. But I think there's too much. Especially the ones on his neck. It's like, I don't know, it just seems a bit too much. And on their own, they might have been a bit over the top. So if he had popped out of the ice and he was just King of the Monsters Godzilla, or even Godzilla vs. Kong Godzilla, but more spikes, that might have been one thing. That might have been like, okay, it's a bit too many, but you know, it's not. But then you add everything else on top. I say to myself, I tell people all the time, especially when I'm working, I'm quite tolerant. I'm usually quite calm and I can deal with all sorts. But little bits will build up and build up and build up. So I'll get one thing goes wrong, two things go wrong, three things, and that's kind of what's happening here. It's like the bright pink, loads of spikes on his back, and then the next subject, Whilst watching a Let's Play, someone in the Let's Players chat asked them if they had seen the Godzilla X Kong trailer. The Let's Players' response was, yes, I've never seen Godzilla look so small. which is a very interesting comment. Of all the things that happened in that trailer, the thing they focused on was how small Godzilla looked, and very specifically small. That's all down to the fact that he looks slimmed down. Now this, again, has a traditional factor to it, but also it has a practical factor to it, which actually links to the traditional factor, so it's all balled into one. So there is some reasoning behind it, some possible reasoning behind it. When Godzilla went from Gojira to Godzilla Raids Again, the decision was made to slim him down to make him more maneuverable, make him look a bit more agile. So when he was fighting against Anguirus, he looked like he could fight, rather than being big and slow and ponderous, which worked for Gojira, because he was meant to look big, slow, ponderous, immovable, a walking mountain, unstoppable. But then for Raids Again, he needed to fight, he needed to move around, and that's not going to be as easy to do in his big bulky suit. And then also they sped the fights up, so in Gojira he was very slow, they slowed things down. In Raids Again they actually sped things up to make the fights look more energetic. Something similar happened between Godzilla 2014 and Godzilla King of the Monsters 2014. He looked big and slow and ponderous. In King of the Monsters he looked a bit faster, a bit more energetic because he's fighting Ghidorah. But they kept the body shape because it's CGI, you can do what you like with CGI. But in this film they've decided to slim him down. And again, that goes into this whole the changes bit, whatever that may be. Again, have to wait until the film comes out to find out what the reasoning is. But he's slimmed down, possibly to look like he's able to fight. Which makes more sense because in 2014 he was the big daddy of protecting the world. So the Mutos were like more scrappier, and he was just like, I'm the big boss, you've got to get past me. I am the wall that you have to knock down. Same thing in King of the Monsters. Ghidorah was the big bad, and he was much like he covered more space, but he wasn't physically bigger than Godzilla, which is a nice balance between them. So like, he's bigger, but he's not bigger. And once again, Godzilla is meant to be the immovable force, no, the immovable object against the unstoppable force of Ghidorah. And once again, that works again with Godzilla vs. Kong. Kong is meant to be the scrappy underdog against the towering behemoth of Godzilla. So the fact that they've slimmed him down for Godzilla X Kong suggests to me that they want Ginger Kong. Yes, I'm still calling him Ginger Kong, until such time as I watch the film and he ends up being a respectable character. His name is Ginger Kong. So Ginger Kong is the big bad, and potentially they want him to be an imposing threat. So to do that, they potentially have slimmed down Godzilla to make him look less imposing, to make him look more agile, more susceptible to whatever threat Ginger Kong presents. Now, I've said a lot of positive things here. My problem is that by slimming him down so much, you've lost an integral essence. You've lost a bit of Godzilla's character, because he is meant to be the big imposing force, the big daddy, the wall against which things must smash themselves to get what they want. So changing him like this, you've taken something away from him, I think. And like I said, the first thing that someone who's not invested in the Godzilla franchise at all, the first thing they said was he looks really small. And I think that's very telling. Now, my next point is quite significant in multiple ways. Godzilla 2000. Homage or member berries? This is important in a lot of ways because one of my many complaints about Godzilla vs. Kong were the references. There were a lot of references to things. They could be anything from the way Kong was lying on the boat with his arm up looking at the God, what was it? The something Iceman? Something Iceman. It had a similar pose. Oh, look, a reference. It's like, okay, that's cool. And then you had the red hand on the door. Door. Ooh, a door. That's like as big as Canary Wharf, or bigger. Jesus Christ. Anyway, the red hand mark that's on the door, which was literally copied from Kong Skull Island. Back there, it had a reason to be there, and it had a significance between, like making Kong feel more human, a relatability, and there was a lot going on there. So for that same red handprint to turn up in Godzilla vs. Kong, it's like, okay, why? And the only reason you can think of is, oh, it's a reference. That's literally it. That's all I can think of. Because they didn't make any... I'm not going into that. You're going to have to watch my videos to find out why I didn't like that. And one day I might actually make that into a big video. Anyway, Godzilla vs. Kong had a lot of references for references' sake. Not for plot reasons or character building or anything like that. Pure and simple references. Hey, look, that's a thing. Do you remember the thing? Well, that's the thing, or looks like the thing. And that's what I'm worried about looking at this trailer. Godzilla's got pinky purple spines. He's slimmed down a lot, which is what Godzilla 2000 was like. When you compare him to the Heisei Godzilla, Godzilla 2000 was slimmed down. Did have spikier spines, did have the purple spines. He was green as well, but they're not doing that for this Godzilla. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, there's a lot comparing Godzilla x Kong Godzilla to Godzilla 2000. But with Godzilla 2000, that was a reboot. Well, soft reboot, because I think they still had the original Godzilla dead there. Godzilla 2000 was basically a reboot of the series, so having a completely new design was fine, it made sense. But changing Godzilla to match a very drastically different design in the fourth or fifth film in a cinematic series, that doesn't feel right. Now, it might not be an homage to 2000. It might not be. They might literally have just made this design up and it just happens to look like him. But there's too many similarities for me to go, it's just a coincidence. It really does feel like they were doing it deliberately. And again, is it an homage? Or is it member berries? Again, we won't know until we see the film and see the story reason why Godzilla has changed so much. But based on Godzilla vs. Kong, my worry is that it's going to be just a reference. And the reasoning behind him changing is going to be very badly thought through. It's not like Burning Godzilla in King of the Monsters. With Burning Godzilla, yes, that was a reference to the Heisei Godzilla vs. Destroyer model. It had very different reasonings behind their look. But at the same time, the Burning Godzilla... Oh my god, I just thought of something else. The Godzilla Burning design had a lot of meaning behind it. It was filled with the sacrifices of others. Literally, Dr. Zorozawa sacrificed himself to power Godzilla up. Mothra sacrificed herself to add to it or give Godzilla more control of it, depending on your interpretation of what happened with her. And then Emma Russell died to distract Ghidorah long enough for Godzilla to basically get into burning mode. That form represented a lot. It represented sacrifice. It also represented how powerful Godzilla needed to get to, how much of a threat Ghidorah was that Godzilla had to get to this state to defeat him. It shows how much people have to give up to get things into the places they need to be. which is all about, which works into the whole, like, people keep saying, oh, it's about climate change. Yeah, the film is kind of about climate change. And you see in the film people having to sacrifice a lot to sort things out, which is kind of what we have to do in real life. Oh my god, I've just thought of something else. God damn it. There's always something else. Godzilla King of the Monsters is so good, you go back to it and every single time you see something you go, oh my god, something new. Godzilla vs. Kong is the complete opposite, and the film hasn't come out yet, so we don't know what Godzilla X Kong is going to be like. I'm hoping it'll be more like King of the Monsters. I'm worried it'll be more like Godzilla vs. Kong. We'll have to wait and see. And the last point I've got on my list just says merchandise, which is something that Omniviewer has brought up already. The fact that other IPs have used merchandise as a jumping off point for making pieces of media. And the one that most people will think of will be Transformers, because that, the cartoon, the films, everything is based around buying toys. And yeah, it's not a bad thing. You can be inspired by all sorts of things. It's what you do with that inspiration. You can take a piece of inspiration and go, oh, I can make all sorts. I can do all sorts with this. And then other people will go, you want me to make a film to sell these? Okay. I think they put that in there. There you go, here's your film. Done. And again, depending on, we haven't seen the film yet, so we don't know how much effort has been put into making a film rather than making an advertisement. Godzilla vs. Kong could be just one huge advertisement for the pink Godzilla action figure and the Ginger Kong action figure. Who knows? It's not like you can't... Godzilla King of the Monsters had some great posters to it. Just the posters on their own look great. And all it did was just like, there's the monster, there's a colour background, boom. The fact that those colorations also worked into the film. Godzilla King of the Monsters, it's great. It's great. It's great. I hate the fact that people don't like it. They need to watch the film again and actually pay attention to it rather than just bad-mouthing it because there's not enough fights in it or something stupid like that. Stop ranting. Stop ranting. When you get something like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they have an evolving story. They had, I dread to think how many films now, but on their 10th anniversary they had loads of films and loads of different iterations of their characters, and those characters have evolved and changed and added new things. So when in an organic way, they have provided companies more merchandise to sell just through the sheer act of developing the story. With Transformers, they just add things. They add new robots, new characters, new whatever, just to sell more merch. New characters will appear from nowhere, like, who the hell are you? Where'd you come from? Doesn't matter, they're here now, you can buy them. And once again, this is feeling very familiar. It's kind of like Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I'm watching that and going, this doesn't work, that doesn't make sense, this has got problems, but we're going to have to wait until the end of the series to see how that all plays out. See, this feels the same as that. So, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't think they're going to work that well, I don't know what the inspiration set's going to be and why it's going to be like this, but we're going to have to wait until the film comes out. That's going to be the caveat for this video. We're going to have to wait until the film comes out. And that's kind of my takeaway from all of this. As I said in my last video, trailers are trailers. They show us stuff, but they don't tell us stuff. We don't necessarily know the context behind what we're seeing. We definitely do not know what the story is going to be. You can tell some things though, i.e., when Godzilla 2014 came out... Ooh, actually, I can link this back to the beginning. At the beginning I was talking about 2 tweets that were saying, oh, Godzilla used to be silly. Yeah, but you don't want to be silly again. The Showa era started dark. miserable, meaningful, thematic. And then slowly but surely as the series went on, Godzilla's character arc went from dark and serious to lighter, more cheery, to the point where he's shaking hands with a gay robot. And then shortly after that, the series ended. We thought the franchise, Toho probably thought the franchise was ended. And then in a weird way, they gave it the Godzilla over to America. America did something with it. Then Toho rebooted the franchise, oddly copying what the Americans did. And then they ended the franchise again and gave the Godzilla over to America. America did something with Godzilla, and then Toho started the franchise again, oddly copying what the Americans did. And what happened again? And then it happened again. And then it happened again. They went from fairly serious to very silly, ended the franchise, gave it over to America. America went dark, so Japan went dark. It's like the Japanese. Again, this is the whole champagne thing that keeps getting brought up again. Oh, this can't be a good Godzilla film because it's not Japanese. It's like champagne. If you see what the Japanese do with Godzilla, they start off good and then go downhill. Then they have to wait for inspiration from somewhere else to then go good again, and then go downhill, and then good again and go downhill. And then the Ray White era, it hasn't actually got up the hill yet. It's still struggling. Although apparently -1 has just jumped to the top of the hill. So I haven't seen the film yet. Comes out in the 15th over here. God damn it. What was I talking about? Right, dark and serious. A lot of the praise that the Godzilla franchise gets is because of the dark and serious and thematic films. And when 2014 came out and it was darker and more serious, people praised it. They watched the trailers and went, oh, this is so good, it's going to be great. Then you watch Godzilla Killing the Monsters and it has more action in it, but at the same time it still has this sort of darker thematics going on. So it had the action, it had the darker thematics, it had a lot going for it. Godzilla vs. Kong comes out, and most people are talking about, oh, I wonder if that's like, is that a new Godzilla? Is that a different Godzilla to the, or maybe it's like, maybe Godzilla's been controlled. Yes, there's an orca that's controlling Godzilla. No, it's Mecha Godzilla with a flesh suit on. That's why that Godzilla isn't like the Godzilla that we all know and love, and why he's doing all these bad things. And then it turns out, no, that he's actually Godzilla. They just completely changed his character. And that's what people took away from the trailers. It's like, that's not Godzilla. Because the Godzilla they're showing here isn't our Godzilla. And that's kind of the feeling I'm getting with Godzilla x Kong. We had the dark and serious stuff, and it gradually changed with Killing Monsters, then went rapidly downhill with Godzilla vs. Kong. And now we're in the trough, well, potentially, I have to keep reminding myself, potentially we're in the trough of Godzilla x Kong, where everything looks bright and colourful and flashy, and Godzilla's got this bright pink design on him now, and people are questioning why he looks so different. And my first thought was, oh, maybe he's being mind controlled, because you've got Ginger Kong, he's sort of got this red motif going on around him, and then Godzilla's got the pink spines. Maybe Ginger Kong mind controlled Godzilla somehow. Maybe that's why he's doing what he's doing. Or maybe it's not Godzilla, maybe it's a different Godzilla. That's why he looks so different, because he's not the same Godzilla. And the same questions are coming into my head. Because people are watching this trailer, and they're not thinking, yay, here's our Godzilla again. They're not thinking, yay, here's the story that I'm invested in being continued. No, what they're saying is, why does it look so odd? Why does it look so different? Maybe because it's not what we think it is. Is there something else going on? And if the film was better, if Godzilla vs. Kong had been well written, that wouldn't have been Godzilla. There would have been a different Godzilla. There would have been Mechagodzilla in a flesh suit or something. Who knows? It would have been something else. But no, it was actually Godzilla, written so badly, people didn't think it was him. And based on this trailer having the same effect of, that doesn't look right, I'm a bit worried Godzilla X Con is going to do the same thing. It's going to drastically change Godzilla because, hey, Godzilla franchise used to be silly, and then it's not going to explain it properly, it's not going to write it properly, and we're going to go to this film wondering what surprise they've got, and there's not going to be any surprise. It's just going to be what it is, and it's going to be another great disappointment that I'm going to have to make a video about. But we'll have to wait and see until the film comes out. Right, I think I'll end it there. I hope everybody's enjoyed this video. I hope it's been informative. I hope it's brought up some talking points. And maybe the next time people tell you terrible arguments online, you can respond with some good ones. Along with the good ones you already had, obviously, because, I mean, you're watching my stuff. Surely you've got some good thoughts in your head. Until my next video, which will probably be on Monarch Legacy of Monsters, I wish you a good day, afternoon, evening, and good night, wherever you might be. And last but not least, thank you for watching.